Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are taking the stack of sources you shared and undertaking one of the most intense and profoundly personal deep dives into a cold case. The 1996 disappearance of 13-year-old Rachel Mellon-Skemp from Bolingbrook, Illinois.
Right. And our focus today is, well, it's quite specific, but absolutely crucial. We're moving past the standard procedural timeline, the step-by-step police work.
Sure.
Instead, we're centering our analysis on the written record Rachel left behind, her personal diary.
Her own words.
Exactly. Our mission here is to understand the terrifying tension within her home life, something she documented herself, and really try to amplify the voice that was silenced on that incredibly cold winter day.
Okay, let's unpack the setting first because
Okay.
the environment feels really critical here. It's January 31st, 1996, Bolingbrook, Illinois.
Yeah.
And it's under the grip of this truly extreme cold snap. The sources all emphasize a wind chill of 20 degrees below zero Fahrenheit.
-20,
Yeah.
that's dangerous cold.
Yeah.
Life-threatening.
Absolutely. And this external brutality, it forms such a stark, immediate contrast with the secrets hidden inside what looked like, just an ordinary suburban home.
That contrast is essential to grasp, I think, because the extreme weather, right off the bat, it lets us rule out any idea that she just casually left.
Yeah.
You don't do that in that weather.
Not in what she was wearing, no.
And who was inside that house? Well, Rachel, a 7th grade student. She was home that day not because of the weather, but because she was sick, had a sore throat.
Right. And the single crucial fact that just dictates every layer of suspicion from the get-go, the only other person known to be in the house with Rachel all morning, all afternoon.
Was her unemployed stepfather, Vincent Mellon.
Yeah. He is, by default, the entire universe of known witnesses for that critical period.
Precisely. And that exclusive opportunity, it just immediately places him under intense scrutiny. So what we're attempting to do is understand the environment that potentially made that opportunity lethal.
And to do that, we have to turn to Rachel's own account from the months leading up to it.
Her diary.
Before we really dive into the written evidence, let's just paint a fuller picture of Rachel herself, the person we're talking about.
Good idea.
She was small for her age, 13 years old, only 5 feet tall, weighed maybe 70 to 80 pounds, black hair, hazel eyes.
And the sources frequently mention a distinguishing mark, right? A small mole on the upper left side of her lip.
Yeah, a detail that's, tragically preserved in all the missing persons databases even today.
But the physical facts, they're kind of secondary to the portrait painted by the people who knew her, who loved her.
Right.
Her best friend, Carrie Scallione, she offered this description that's wonderfully complex, actually, called Rachel a bubbly teen, but also an old soul.
An old soul at 13.
Yeah. But then Carrie added this really profound qualifier.
Yeah.
She noted Rachel was always in great spirits. And here's the key part, regardless of what was going on in the house.
Wow. That phrase, regardless of what was going on in the house, that's a huge, painful signpost right there, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
It suggests a home environment that required her, a 13-year-old, to build this kind of protective shield of cheerfulness.
Like she had to perform normalcy.
Exactly. It implies that maybe friends were aware, perhaps only vaguely, that the situation at home wasn't straightforward, that it required some kind of emotional navigation far beyond her years.
And the sources do reinforce this duality, this complexity. She was navigating that typical, beautiful, awkward transition of adolescence. Her biological father, Jeff Skemp, he recalled a conversation where she was so proud, telling him she'd graduated from pop music to alternative rock and roll.
Yeah, finding her taste.
Right. She was evolving, finding her voice, asserting her identity, like any teenager.
Which makes the scene of her disappearance even more heartbreakingly poignant, I think.
How so?
Well, her Walkman. It was found right there, hanging on her bedpost. Still had Alanis Morissette's album, Jagged Little Pill, inside it.
Oh, wow. Jagged Little Pill. That album was huge then.
Huge. And it just encapsulates a life paused right in the middle of discovery. It confirms she was right where she was supposed to be, a normal kid, listening to music in her room, even while she was apparently carrying this extraordinary and very dangerous secret.
So if we're looking for the earliest indicator of that danger on that specific day, where do we find it?
We find it in her last known communication with the outside world. It was around 10:45 that morning. A phone call.
Okay.
A 4 or 5 minute call to her paternal grandmother, Lucy Skemp.
Right. I remember reading this. The call itself, it started out pretty normal, didn't it? Just a routine thank you for Christmas gifts.
Exactly. Innocuous. But the conversation took a sharp, really alarming turn near the end. Rachel suddenly just went quiet, almost unnaturally reserved.
And this is where the sources reveal there was already this, like, pre-existing anxiety within the family about the stepfather?
Yes. Because of that sudden silence, the grandmother, Lucy, she immediately asked this chillingly specific question. She asked, "Is he there?"
Directly referencing Vincent Mellon.
Explicitly. She suspected, without even needing Rachel to say anything, that his presence was the reason Rachel couldn't speak freely. It suggests this wasn't the first time something like this might have happened.
And Rachel's response was just devastatingly brief.
A single word. Confirmed. Yes.
Followed by an abrupt end to the call because she simply had to go.
That one syllable, yes. Followed by the immediate disconnection. I mean, it speaks volumes about the psychological atmosphere Rachel was living in.
Yeah, it really does.
It demonstrates a clear pattern of monitoring, or at least, the pervasive fear of being monitored by her stepfather.
She felt she couldn't talk freely.
Exactly. And that feeling is confirmed and given terrible context later by what's found in her diary. It makes the grandmother's question and Rachel's reaction sort of the first significant warning sign that danger was imminent that morning.
That moment of fear, captured in just one word, it's later compounded by the physical evidence Rachel left behind. Evidence that just screams, this was not a choice she made.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The clothing Rachel was wearing is, frankly, the definitive proof she did not willingly leave that house.
What was she wearing again?
A pink top, yellow sweatpants, and only red house slippers.
Flippers.
Slippers. To walk out into minus 20-degree wind chill in-house slippers, it's unthinkable. It's basically suicide.
And all her necessary winter gear, her coat, her shoes, her purse, everything she would have needed to survive even a few minutes outside.
All left behind. In her room, this is the physical reality confirming an abrupt, non-voluntary removal from the house, likely under duress or perhaps while she was incapacitated somehow.
And then there's this other detail, the items that were missing. It wasn't random stuff.
No, and this is where the evidence becomes specifically suggestive of concealment, I think. Only 3 items vanished with Rachel. A blue blanket and 2 pillows from her bed.
Bedding.
When we analyze why those specific items might be missing, we move beyond just a simple disappearance.
Right, because why take bedding? If you run away, you take a coat, maybe money. If you're abducted by a stranger off the street, they're not grabbing your pillows.
Precisely. The missing bedding suggests an immediate need for concealment, or maybe transport. If Rachel was removed from the home, perhaps already harmed.
They could have been used to wrap her.
Possibly. Or maybe initially to stage the scene. Make it look like she was still sleeping under the blue blanket, by some time until later. It points directly to an indoor action taken by someone who had exclusive access to her room and to her.
Okay, so this physical scene of removal, the slippers, the missing bedding, it's completely incompatible with the timeline presented by the only known witness, Vincent Mellon.
Totally incompatible. His narrative had to be immediately scrutinized, and it was.
So what was his initial account?
Mellon's story was this. After the morning phone call around 10:45, he said he and Rachel played Nintendo for a while.
Okay.
Then he claimed that around 2:30 p.m., Rachel went to her room to take a nap under that specific blue blanket we just mentioned.
The missing blanket.
The missing blanket. He then stated he left the house to walk the family's German Shepherd, Duke, leaving the door unlocked, importantly. And he claimed he was only gone for a brief 30-minute window, from maybe 2:30 p.m. to 3 p.m.
That 30-minute window is the absolute core of his alibi, right? If he was only gone for half an hour, it limits his opportunity drastically.
It does, but the sources show that alibi was completely obliterated by independent testimony.
Okay, how so?
This is where the detail sources really expose the deception. An independent, objective witness, a local real estate broker, totally unconnected to the family, found the dog, Duke, wandering loose in the neighborhood.
The dog got out, or was let out.
Unclear how Duke got loose, but Lucy was. And the broker returned Duke to the Mellon-Skemp residence sometime between 4:30 p.m. and 5:00 p.m.
Okay, wait. Mellon claims he returned with the dog at 3 p.m., but the witness confirms the dog was found loose and returned almost 2 hours later.
Exactly. It creates this massive, unaccounted-for time gap. It links 90 minutes, maybe up to 2 hours.
So what does that gap mean?
Well, it means either Mellon was absent from the house for far, far longer than the 30 minutes he claimed, giving him a much larger window of opportunity outside the house. Or he was present in the house during that time, letting the dog wander loose, and was occupied with something inside the house that prevented him from noticing or retrieving Duke for over an hour and a half.
Something like dealing with Rachel.
That's the implication. This window, this contradiction, it grants him the exclusive opportunity, unaccounted for by any credible alibi, to potentially subdue Rachel, dispose of her body, and then maybe attempt to stage the scene before his wife, Rachel's mother, returned home from work.
And the inconsistencies weren't just limited to the timeline, were they? There were physical red flags, too.
Right. Police immediately noted scratches on Mellon's body. Arms, face, I believe.
And his explanation.
He tried to explain them away, rather unconvincingly according to reports, as injuries he got while working on his car.
Convenient.
Seemed convenient, yes. Those physical signs, coupled with reports that he failed multiple key parts of polygraph examinations.
Which aren't admissible in court, but investigators use them.
Correct. They strongly suggested deception and maybe pointed towards a potential struggle. But look, while the timeline contradiction gives us the opportunity...
We need the motive, the why.
Exactly. And the true, devastating motive, the essential why behind all this, only became clear when investigators found the absolute pivot point of the entire case, Rachel's personal diary.
This is where Rachel's voice really emerges from the silence, isn't it?
Absolutely. The discovery of her private writings fundamentally shifted the entire context of the investigation. It transformed this search from, a standard missing person case.
Which could have been anything, a runaway, stranger abduction.
Right. Into a potential homicide focused squarely on the concealment of a violent, dark domestic secret.
The diary allowed Rachel to testify, in a way, even after she was silenced.
That's a powerful way to put it. It provided the crucial context and motive that made all the other circumstantial evidence, the false alibi, the missing blanket, the grandmother's fear on the phone, suddenly cohere into a single terrifying narrative.
Okay, let's dedicate significant time to this core revelation then. This is at the heart of our deep dive. The most damning entry, the critical one, was dated August 7th, 1995.
Right. Just over 5 months before the morning she vanished.
And what did she write in that entry?
In that entry, Rachel wrote a clear, detailed, and frankly chilling account of an incident involving Vincent Mellon.
She named him specifically.
Yes, she documented specific actions where he had kissed her and touched her inappropriately. This wasn't vague or implied. The sources describe it as an explicit record of sexual misconduct by her stepfather.
Oh my God, that's horrific.
It is. But what makes this entry so incredibly powerful and so revealing isn't just the documentation of the abuse itself, it's Rachel's careful recording of Mellon's subsequent manipulative dialogue.
What do you mean?
She captured his exact words, his bizarre justification for his actions. And this justification shows a deeply calculated attempt to normalize the violation, to twist it into something else.
What did he say to her, according to the diary?
This is the absolute crux of it. Rachel wrote that Mellon told her he was warning her about predators out in the world.
Warning her by abusing her.
Exactly. He claimed he was showing her what shouldn't happen until she was older, using the abuse itself as the supposed lesson.
That calculated language is just... It's sickening. It's a textbook maneuver, isn't it? Designed to confuse a young victim, disguise the violation as some kind of lesson or a protective act.
If we connect this to the broader understanding of predatory behavior, this is classic grooming in action. Textbook grooming.
How does that work? What's the mechanism there?
Well, the abuser attempts to dismantle the victim's natural sense of right and wrong. By framing the assault as a warning, Mellon was doing several insidious things at once.
Like what?
Okay, first, he creates cognitive dissonance. Rachel is made to feel she's receiving valuable, maybe even secret information from a protective authority figure, even though the act itself is terrifying and feels fundamentally wrong.
So it confuses her sense of reality.
Precisely. Second, it ensures silence. If she discloses this incident, she isn't just reporting abuse. She might feel like she's betraying a trusted protector who is supposedly trying to keep her safe from the real dangers out there.
It twists loyalty.
Completely. And third, he establishes a shared secret, but a warped one. He tries to normalize the violation by making her complicit in keeping this twisted lesson confidential.
So she wasn't just carrying a secret about the abuse. She was carrying this whole narrative where she might have felt responsible for understanding and hiding this dangerous lesson from everyone else.
Yes. And the immense psychological pressure that places on a 13-year-old, that calculated confusion, it must have been just overwhelming.
And that pressure, that secret, that's the direct link to the motive for her disappearance.
It has to be. The diary established a history of sexual abuse, a terrifying, dark family secret. And as Rachel got older, 13 turning 14, she was getting closer to the point where she might find the courage or the confidence or maybe just the opportunity to disclose the truth.
Maybe to her biological father, Jeff Skemp, who she seemed close to, or a school counselor, a friend.
Any of those. And for Vincent Mellon, the risk of that exposure would have been absolutely catastrophic. Personally, legally, socially. Everything.
So the diary establishes this existential threat that Rachel, just by existing and knowing the truth, posed to him.
Exactly. And on January 31st, 1996, the motive, the need to silence that threat, and the opportunity being home alone with her, sick and vulnerable, they converged perfectly.
The fear that Rachel was about to disclose the truth, or maybe already had hinted at it, provided the most powerful motive imaginable for a crime of concealment.
Absolutely. Her disappearance, when you view it through the lens of that specific diary entry, it immediately stops looking like a random mystery. It transforms into what looks like a predictable, almost inevitable act of self-preservation by the alleged abuser.
The sources seem very clear. That single entry permanently cemented Vincent Mellon as the prime, #1 suspect in the eyes of investigators.
How could it not? The motive was now crystal clear. Silencing a victim of documented sexual abuse and ensuring that secret died with her.
So you have the circumstantial evidence, the exclusive opportunity from the busted alibi, the physical evidence of removal like the slippers and the blanket, the history documented in the diary.
It was overwhelming, circumstantially, and authorities certainly recognized this. They attempted to pursue the case vigorously based on that.
Right. In 2000, that was 4 years after Rachel vanished, a grand jury was convened in Will County, Illinois, to hear the evidence against Mellon.
Correct. Both Mellon and Rachel's mother, Amy Mellon, were subpoenaed to testify. It was a clear attempt to force some kind of movement in the case, even without having found Rachel's body.
They were really building a case around that motive from the diary and the opportunity from the timeline.
They were. They even obtained a search warrant for forensic samples from Mellon, his blood, hair, saliva, clearly anticipating finding some definitive physical link eventually, maybe, if remains were ever discovered.
But despite that grand jury investigation, despite the powerful moral weight of Rachel's own written testimony in that diary,
no indictment was returned. Not against Mellon, not against anyone else.
And that just underscores the profound legal challenge you face when prosecuting a nobody homicide, doesn't it? The moral certainty, what you feel you know happened, often clashes head-on with the legal burden of proof.
It does, tragically often. The prosecution had compelling circumstantial evidence. You had motive, you had established deception in the alibi, you had exclusive opportunity. But to meet that incredibly high standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt needed for a criminal conviction.
They needed something more direct.
They needed direct evidence, a body, a definitive forensic link tying him to a crime scene or remains. Or, of course, a confession. Without that physical anchor, the case, despite the devastating evidence in Rachel's diary, just stalled legally.
And the aftermath of that legal failure, it seems to have created this profound and just heartbreaking family schism, one that speaks volumes about the enduring power of that secret.
It really does.
Yeah.
On one side, you have Rachel's biological father, Jeff Skemp. He has never, ever stopped fighting for justice for his daughter.
He lived in Texas when she disappeared, right, but he's been very public.
Incredibly public. He became this relentless advocate, tirelessly worked to keep the case in the public eye, very openly identifying Vincent Mellon as the person he believes is responsible.
Right.
He maintains the Facebook page, Help Find Rachel Marie Mellon-Skemp, just unwavering in his demand for accountability.
But tragically, his advocacy over the years, it seems to have been tempered by this heartbreaking acceptance of reality.
Yeah, as recently as a few years ago, he stated publicly that he's found some peace with the strong possibility that Rachel is no longer alive. His focus seems to have shifted, understandably, from finding her alive to finding accountability for her disappearance.
And his very public quest for truth, it stands in such stark, honestly troubling contrast to the actions of Rachel's mother, Amy Mellon.
It's a very stark contrast. Around 2006, which was roughly a decade after the case went cold and the grand jury failed to indict, Amy and Vincent Mellon, the man identified by police and Rachel's own diary as the prime suspect, they relocated together. Moved away to Tennessee.
They stayed together and moved away.
Yes. Their decision to move away and remain a couple paired with their subsequent decision to maintain complete and total public silence on the case ever since. It's perhaps the most devastating aspect of the aftermath for those seeking answers.
Because it creates this almost insurmountable investigative barrier.
Right, absolutely. By moving and by erecting that solid wall of silence alongside the prime suspect, Amy Mellon effectively guaranteed that no further insight into the events of that day or, crucially, what she knew about the diary's contents or the situation leading up to it could be easily obtained.
It's a decision that appears, from the outside at least, to prioritize silence and the continuation of her relationship with the suspect over any public pursuit of justice for her own daughter.
The psychological implication of that silence is just. It's profound. It sealed off the two central figures from any further public scrutiny or questioning, and it created this deep, painful division within the family that persists to this very day.
So where does the case stand now?
The sources confirm the case of Rachel Mellon-Skemp remains classified as an active cold case by the Bolingbrook Police Department.
Active, but cold.
Meaning it's not closed, they haven't given up. Investigators have preserved all the evidence, hoping for maybe a future scientific advancement in forensics, or perhaps someday a conscience breaking after all these decades of silence. Rachel will be 41 years old today in 2024.
41. It's hard to imagine. But ultimately, the true power in this tragic narrative, it seems to rest entirely with the words of the victim herself.
It really does. Her diary is her enduring testimony. It's the single most important piece of evidence in understanding what likely happened.
All the overwhelming circumstantial factors, the demonstrably false alibi, the physical impossibility of her running away in slippers, the exclusive opportunity Mellon had, the specifically missing items like the blanket.
All of that is fundamentally cemented, given context and terrible meaning, by the clear, documented, and chilling motive found in her own written words. The words detailing the sexual abuse and the calculated grooming she endured.
Her diary entry, it just reframes the entire tragedy, doesn't it? It transforms what might have been just another missing person report into a clear indictment of calculated abuse and provides a powerful explanation for a potential crime of concealment.
Her voice, reaching out from those pages nearly 30 years later, is the central pillar of the truth in this case, even if the legal system couldn't act on it definitively.
The discovery of that diary entry didn't just provide a motive in isolation, it established this terrifying pattern of abuse and control within that specific home.
And it pointed directly to the reason why Rachel might have been permanently silenced on that cold January morning.
So maybe this raises a final important question for you, the listener, to consider. If Rachel, through her diary, provided such a clear, documented motive stemming from abuse just 5 months before she vanished, what was the full extent of the truth she was carrying? Was that entry the only incident, or just the one she wrote down?
And perhaps more chillingly, if that secret was so profound, so dangerous, who else in that household might have known or suspected the burden Rachel was bearing? And what does their continued silence for almost 3 decades now truly conceal?
It remains a deeply disturbing case where the victim's own words provide the most damning evidence against the single individual who had the final exclusive opportunity to silence her.
We absolutely urge anyone who might have any information, however small or seemingly insignificant, regarding Rachel Mellon-Skemp's disappearance, to please contact the Bolingbrook Police Department. Their number is 630-226-8660.
That's 630-226-8660. The case is active, and the search for accountability and for Rachel continues.